What's up guys, it's Ace, and today we're going to go through the most extensive arrow tuning video that has ever been brought to the channel. If you're really interested in seeing how you can maximize your setup, stay tuned. So I'm getting ready for the First Dakota Classic. It's an indoor 60, 50, and 40 yard tournament, and the score I'm aiming to shoot is a perfect 600 and then shoot as many 150s as I can in the elimination bracket. 600s have been shot by people like Kyle Douglas, Stephen Hansen, and Jesse Broadwater, several 599s, Jimmy Lutz, Robert Householder. So it's possible, but one of the things that's never questioned is arrow diameter. Most people elect to go to the smallest shaft their manufacturer makes. The X10 from Easton, the Pierce Tour from Gold Tip, and one of the things I wanted to challenge is, for an indoor tournament, could you increase the diameter, get about the same forgiveness, and make it easier to shoot a 600? And even easier to have a higher X count. To my knowledge, within the past 5 years, the highest score shot so far has been 51 X's with the 600, so dropping 9 X's. And I believe that was done with the Pierce Tour by my good friend Kyle Douglas. So the thing with that arrow size, it's not as small as an X10, it's a little bit bigger. So that might be the best happy medium size. I'm not sure what the size is right off the top of my head, but I will be testing an arrow that's maybe just a tick bigger than that arrow. So here are our opponents. We're going to have the X10, obviously. This is a 410 spine. I have this cut about 26 inches. I've got the Biter Hunter 19.2 pin knock, the hard yellow right there. I have noticed that the solid colors are more durable nocks than the transparent ones. They also fit the Easton bushings a little bit tighter, something to play with. I'm running the 2-inch tack driver vanes. I went away from the 175s. These seem to be 10 times better. And I might have cut a little bit off the back, not sure, maybe an inch or two. Easton has a chart to reference how much you're supposed to cut off the front or even the back, just to make sure the components fit snug. So I am running a 110 grain point in the X10, 120 break-off point. I did a video that you'll probably see later after this one where I tested 100 grains, 120, and 110, and I just kept the arrow the same. And the 110s by far were so much better. The 100s exponentially sucked. The 120s were good, but an up and down group. Like if I had any low-hanging shots, it felt like the arrow was lobbing to the target with my feet of poundage. And then the 110 seemed to do the best. Now, I'm shooting 70 pounds for the NFAA setup, so worst case, I'll just put 120s in, and even 140s with that type of poundage. My draw length is also the longest it's been for a very long time. I have bumped it out because I want my bow arm, right when the string is cut, to not push the bow as the arrow is leaving. So I've ran quite a bent arm at several tournaments, the ASA Classic, some of the FIDA tournaments, NFAA Field Nationals, and I've noticed on some of my shots that seems to be an issue. So I'm running just shy of 27 and a half, 27 and 3/4, somewhere in there. It's way longer than the 27 and a quarter that I usually run. Also running a ton of holding weight. As I bump out my draw length, I'm able to increase my holding weight. So I'm at 20.6 pounds, 69-pound bow with the longest draw I've ran in a long time. It's very comfortable. I could not run that holding weight a 1/4 inch shorter. I would want to run 18 or something. So the more bent my arm is, the less holding weight I can run most of the time. So now let's go into our next arrow. So I have 3 different colored nocks on the Sonic 6.0s. These are basically a rebranded Superdrive 19. I have 3 different point weights there. And then with my Superdrive 23s, I wanted to give these a shot. I've got pin bushings in these as well. The Easton pin bushing, I have the same nocks on all the arrows. On the Sonics and the Superdrives, we're running a 2 1/4 inch tack driver vane, all slight left helicals on a Bitzenberger clamp. We've got 120 competition points, competition archery products, Jesse's points in the Superdrive 23. And then we have Easton's point. I believe we have 140 grains in the nose of this arrow. So we'll have those 2 nocks. What we're gonna do is, each arrow dynamically has to be tuned to the bow. So I'm going to tune, paper tune, then check my bear shaft. My anticipation at this poundage, the X10s might be a little weak. And then I think the 23s will probably be right on the money. I could change my mod and go from the 70 pound, 70% mod to the 65, 70% mod. And that might enhance the tune with the bear shaft. The problem is you can paper tune this bow to make any arrow shoot a bullet hole through paper. But that doesn't mean that the bear shaft is going to shoot in a very forgiving way. If you shoot the bear shaft at 20 or 30, especially 30 with the 23, it might kick a ton. And then that's where if you finesse the limb shift, you might have it kicking far one way and then it just goes to the other side and is like a foot left and then it's a foot right with little squeaks. If that's your arrow setup and that's how it's tuning, usually what that means is it's either too stiff or too weak. And if it's within spine, you can tweak your limb shift and it'll line up slowly and not do any crazy corrections. Let's go ahead and check the paper tune of the X10. I don't like to shoot down and really close at paper. A lot of guys, they'll shoot right in front of it and they'll be like, oh, it's getting the correction, but you can literally stand sideways, shoot through the paper and then have a tear. Really quick plug for JB Weld. This stuff is pretty cool. So I started using this glue to fletch my arrows with. It's basically a UV activated super glue. You can get this at Lowe's or Home Depot. I've learned that super glue, any glue you use on any vane, the glue loses its tackiness and gets like cured in the bottle as you wait. So I had issues fletching my 23s. I did my Sonics first. They were kind of hard to fletch with the tack glue I had. And then I was like, okay, I need to get something fast to do these 23s. This was the only thing I could find that works besides the tack glue. This or the triggered archery glue, any UV activated glue, it's very efficient. So a lot of times too, Bitzenberger magnets, they will lose their strength. So when you go to let your hand off the clamp will move and then your vane will move and then you're compromised. That's something I want to replace on my bits. Speaking of which, I always get questions about my grips, custom things like with my release, like with this third finger. I've made custom draw stops using this stuff. I've probably spent 200 bucks easily on experiments using steel stick. It hardens in 10 minutes. You literally just mold it, and if you want to remove it, you just heat it up a little bit and then pop it off. So, and it's very stiff. It's not like Sugru, where Sugru's like, it doesn't bond to the material. It will stick to your riser, it'll stick to your release. Yeah, using it as a draw stop, not really recommended. I did it one time. I shot 32 up on a course with an 8. And then the next week I took a pair of pliers and took it off. So it's really good stuff. Don't use it for draw stops, use it for grips, use it for release fitment. So another thing that I've noticed with changes I've made besides draw length to my target bow, I shot it so much to where I started to develop a little bit of play in the AVS bearings, which are these yoke bearings right here. They're like these giant bearings. Pretty much at the end of every season, I'm going to check those and make sure they're not sliding back and forth. These are brand new cams on this bow. And if I pinch the bearings, they'll have a little bit of movement. If I just do this. And on the bottom, yeah, just a little bit, especially on this outside bearing, just with how it loads on that bearing. But on my other bow, it's a ton of movement. I know that Kyle Douglas and Tim, talking with them, they are very mindful of the AVS bearings, and they will replace their cams very frequently. I think as long as you replace them once a season for the average shooter, you should be fine, as long as you're not noticing a ton of movement there. There will be some, but if it's like you can audibly hear a very big click, not going to be good. Other developments, I have some very thin electrical tape on my lines of my level. I had Joe, one of my coaching clients, come in. He's an awesome archer. He's out of Michigan. And the guy he bought his scope from had done what I just did. So on the Bowfinger, you can't really see the lines, and the lines are very spread out and the bubble's very small. So it's very nice having that mental feedback of how exact your level really is, especially for shooting outside, especially for shooting a short axle to axle bow, especially for shooting a hunting bow. You need to have a very responsive level that you can see the lines where they're squished together and very bold, so you know, hey, this isn't really centered up. If you're getting lots of lefts and rights and you feel the bow like leaning a certain way with a shorter ATA bow, that's going to be a humongous benefit to you. So like a Title 36 or smaller, huge improvement. I saw Bodie at Reading. He was shooting a Title 36 and he had this electronic like rifle level in his scope, and it makes sense why he would go to the lengths of doing that on the 36. But the 38, something about the longer riser, it doesn't really require that, but using those lines, it's made a huge difference for me. So I literally have no lefts and rights. I just replaced my string as well. I'm using the factory serving for my nocks, and it's a very loose fit. I think I've ran a little too tight in the past on some of my videos with the biters specifically. Just make sure that it can really spin freely inside your D-loop like this. I don't like any up and down wiggle, just to the point where there's none at rest. And then a really big bottom knock set. So when you get it to full draw, the string is vertical in a draw board where your knock actually is going to be sitting. So I am using 21 thou power grip, and I've done about 8 wraps on a nail knot, and works great. Man, that thing is responsive. I've also watched my bow on slow motion and have really seen this string whip the stop. Like it'll hit the stop and it'll fly back like this far after it hits it. I wonder if it'll tune better through paper if I take it out. Let's try it. Let's shoot this again without any rest adjustment. High right tear. So rest is very low. That's really bad for an X10. That's not a good high left tear, in my opinion, to start with. So we'll click our rest. Just go up one line on the side. So with the limb shift, bump this out a little bit on both sides. Cool. Now let's shoot it again. Gotta watch that in slow-mo. So that is more healthy. Let's keep going again. It's a breeze to replace these cams as well. Basically, you press it, you undo the 2 screws on both sides, and then you back it out to where the axle just pops out. It'll unthread through the limb shift side. When you replace the yokes, same process. Nice. Nice. I did the money right there. So yeah, that's a really high looking blade angle, but I think when I get to full draw, the bow cants forward a tick, so it's not as bad. Bear shaft is probably going to be dead on, so let's go ahead and check. Also been working on my release technique. So about 4 years ago, in my opinion, I shot some of my very best with the stand shoot off and a Carter barrel. And I'll cue the clip right here. I got an old iPhone out that had a clip on it. You can see my technique. It's a very light trigger and no thumb movement at all, just index. I have my peg out very far on this release, going to be playing with that and maybe modifying it to where it's closer to the barrel and a little hotter, but this feels very natural right now. But the whole technique with the index only, I really like. It keeps me connected to my form. So let's go ahead and shoot this bare shaft. It's not too bad. Yeah, those two are stacked. I mean, the bare shaft's slightly low. Just got a 60-yard mark. Kind of a left. Oh my goodness. I do not know why that's over there. That is not where my pin was. That could be the arrow. That very much could be that one arrow. Yeah, so that's straight left. First one did not make any sense to me. Kind of a high break. Working with form, this is the longest draw length I've ran in the past 5 years. So it's very different. So on that one, I faded out of my peep, did a readjustment at full draw, smoked it. I did a readjustment at full draw. If it would have executed where my anchor felt good, where the peep was kind of high, I would have been bottom of the 10, maybe a 9. So the left and right is really good with this setup because of the lines on my scope, but also because the peep I'm running is a 1/32 peep. That is the smallest peep in the old Hamskea Insight kit. Kind of a fast execution, more left and under my jaw with that knuckle. If you haven't seen my anchor video, that's kind of what I was doing. Excellent. Got to work on stabilization. I'm running 13 on the front, 22 on the back, 30 and a 15-inch bar. Let's go on to the next segment of testing with the Sonics.